For Creamer Media's Engineering News, I'm Samantha Moelman. Consulting engineer and industry stalwart John Bewsey joins me in studio today to share his personal views on the future of gas in Africa. Welcome, John.
Hi, Samantha.
John, can you provide me with a current overview of the gas industry in Africa and where its future lies?
The gas industry in South Africa, or the gas resource in Africa, is enormous. And our potential here to turn this into something of great value is wonderful. So I think that with the effort that we could put into this field, we've got a great future coming.
You predict that the price of gas will be lowered eventually. Can you discuss this and establish how it will affect Africa as a continent?
The gas price has been predominantly governed by Russia, countries like Russia, to some extent the new finds in Australia, and in the old world over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And it's been drifting sideways and upwards. But with the advent of fracking in the United States, which has been going for some long time, some 30 years or so, but now they are operating over 1 million fracked wells, and the gas price has dropped from something above $10 per million BTUs, or a gigajoule, roughly the same thing. It's dropped from roughly $10 to $12 per gigajoule down to about $2 a gigajoule now. And this, of course, has turned the whole energy market in America pretty much upside down. And of course, it's really very attractive for the American population, because they're getting a great benefit from this. And this doesn't affect the rest of the world at the moment because of the logistics difficulty of American gas directly shipping into the rest of the world. But we've seen now one major terminal has just started to operate, and we're probably going to start to see that effect over the next few years as more terminals come online and more of this cheap American gas starts to filter into the rest of the world. The $10 per gigajoule regime for gas probably going to be history, and we're going to see the whole of the rest of the world being touched, happily so, by $2 or $3 a gigajoule, and we'll all have a good time.
How do you think this will affect the African continent, if your predictions ring true?
It must have a similar kind of effect as that kind of pricing can feature into the African continent. Again, gas is not an easy thing to move about, so you can get differential prices throughout the world. So a $2 price in America doesn't necessarily have to be worldwide, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in Africa. But it must have some effect. We do import a lot of gas at the moment, and the prices that we're getting here in South Africa are absolutely stunningly high. And so that if cheaper gas can come in through the terminal in Richards Bay, I think everybody's going to benefit very nicely from that. And as more terminals are created in Africa, so that would have a spin-off into the rest of Africa as well.
Okay. If all goes well, Africa will soon have an abundance of gas to capitalize on. So what are some of South Africa's options in this regard?
Yeah, well, gas is an eco-acceptable fuel for starters. So wherever possible, one would like to switch over from coal to gas, or perhaps better still to hydro. But the obvious net effect is going to be that we would be able to produce lower cost electricity. As time goes by, we could even switch over some of our coal-fired power stations to gas. That would be a nice hope. Or build fresh power stations closer to gas fields. If we then had lower electricity prices, we could then restart our electricity-intensive industries like ferromanganese, ferrochrome, aluminium smelters, all of these industries which are really struggling at the moment with the high prices. And so if we could then become competitive again, that has a massive spin-off on our whole industrial area. And then, of course, we could switch to turning that gas into liquids. The Sasol GTL process would then come alive in a big way. And also the building of fertilizers, the basic building block being ammonia. If we had more gas and more reasonably priced gas, we could become a power in the fertilizer world, more so than we are now. And I think the big spin-off will be that our oil refineries are now pretty mature, and there's much talk of them having to be scrapped because they're actually so old that they are difficult to upgrade to the new fuel standards that we are not operating in South Africa yet because we can't. And either large amounts of money will have to be spent on old equipment, or better still, we are talking about building new ones, but my dream would be that we actually wouldn't build any oil to liquid refineries, that we would build gas GTLs using our own homegrown technology and our own homegrown assets. So instead of importing and paying vast amounts of forex, we could actually use our own in-house assets, our own in-house know-how. We could actually create enormous wealth in South Africa just by applying what we've got on hand.
On that note, hydraulic fracturing or fracking could hold significant potential for South Africa's economy, but it is a contentious issue. What are your views on the matter?
Well, I think that the negative vibes around about fracking are strongly overworked, and I think they've become a little bit too emotional. As far as I can see, there are only two negatives that have been brought up. The first one is the possibility that underground water can be polluted. Now, we've got the history in America that over 1 million wells have been drilled, and only 7 of these have been shown to have created any problems, and these were wells drilled with pretty old technology. So it's probable that this is an overreaction, number one. Number two, the so-called polluting chemicals that are used in the fracking process are actually not very problematic at all. I've seen the list of them, and even the existing list I don't read as being serious, number one. But number two, the oil companies have shown that they're already upgrading that list to be more eco-acceptable. So I think it's an overreaction that we can get this kind of water pollution coming from that, number one. Number two, if it does happen, there are ways of correcting the water. So I really have a great difficulty trying to see why there's any hysteria at all. The cost of correcting a polluted water stream is so minuscule compared to the value of the gas that's underground, that it really is not an issue. The second item that's brought up as being a negative for fracking is the visual appearance of the drilling rigs, which would probably have one every 5 kilometers or so. And by my reckoning, those drilling rigs are somewhere around about a quarter of the size of an SKA antenna. And nobody, as far as I know, has been complaining about the fact that there'll be thousands of these massive erections put all over the Karoo. That doesn't seem to create a problem, but a little drilling rig is a problem, so it doesn't kind of add up in my book.
Well, thank you very much, John, for sharing your views. That was veteran consulting engineer John Bewsey on the future of gas in Africa.